U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Jerusalem on the second leg of his three-day visit to West Asia. The visit comes in the backdrop of heightened Israeli-Palestinian tensions, and the easing of tensions seems to top Blinken's agenda for the visit. Blinken is to hold talks with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem today. He will also be meeting leaders of Israel's ultra-nationalist parties who want to expand West Bank settlements.
Seven people were killed in Friday's terrorist attack in Neve Yaakov. Many more were wounded. Most were leaving a synagogue after prayer. To the families of the victims, we express our most heartfelt condolences, knowing that we can never know the depth of your loss. May the memory of your loved ones be a blessing. To take an innocent life in an act of terrorism is always a heinous crime. But to target people outside their place of worship is especially shocking.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's new right-wing government has stirred concern over the future of Israel's secular values and the ongoing deadlock over peace talks with Palestinians. During his visit, Blinken is also expected to reiterate Washington's support for a two-state solution. The U.S. Secretary of State will also travel to Ramallah to meet with the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, where he will be calling for broader steps to de-escalate tension in the region. Earlier, Blinken visited Cairo, where he met with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The two discussed regional issues as Libya and Sudan. He met Egyptian youth leaders and emphasized strengthening the Washington-Cairo strategic partnership. For more on this story, let's take a look at this report filed by our correspondent, Jody Cohen from Jerusalem.
Following his meetings with Egypt's President and Foreign Minister, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has travelled to Israel for meetings in Jerusalem with the Prime Minister, Foreign Minister and President. While this was a pre-planned visit to discuss the new government's agenda, the U.S. visa waiver program, regional cooperation and Iran's nuclear program, the current Israeli-Palestinian tensions are high on the agenda. Blinken's key message to Israel and Palestinian President Abbas, who he's meeting in Ramallah on Tuesday, restore security cooperation. This is Jody Cohen for WION World is One.
For more on this, I'm joined from Washington, D.C. by retired Colonel David B. DeRoche. He's professor at Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University. David, thank you so much for joining us on WION. It seems that Antony Blinken is going to the region at such a critical moment. On the eve of his visit, there was an attack on some key facilities in Iran as well. What do you make of this visit, considering the fact that many attributed those attacks on Israel, although they weren't verified, but it just signals how tense the situation is in the Middle East right now?
Well, the Middle East is always tense, and what you've seen is the Trump administration was trying to move away from the Middle East. The Obama administration was trying to pivot to Asia, although the Middle East was still an important part of that pivot, and really it was a pivot away from Europe. And the Biden administration has tried to basically refocus on Europe and on East Asia. But the Middle East insists on America's attention. America may not be interested in the Middle East, but the Middle East is interested in America. And historically, the United States plays a role as security guarantor for a large number of the countries there. So when you have tension, it's only natural that you see stepped up American involvement.
And although this was a pre-planned visit, again, as our correspondent also noted, and as you mentioned, there's no shortage of headlines coming out of the Middle East on the one hand, but on the other hand, there's a new government, well, somewhat new, in Israel as well. How do you see relations developing in any way between the Biden administration and now this new government of Bibi in a sense?
Well, I don't think anybody in the Biden administration welcomed the makeup of the new Netanyahu government. This government is far more extreme by Israeli standards than any that preceded it. And indeed, one of the members of the government leads an organization that Israel considered to be a terrorist organization until relatively recently. So, this is not the government the United States would have chosen. Some of the things that members of the government have said run counter to longstanding, not just American policy, but also Israeli policy. The question is, Netanyahu leads a coalition. There are many, many people in it who have many, many interests. How can we marginalize those who are extremists and try to get Netanyahu back into the generally accepted dialogue on the future of Israel and the resolution of Palestine?
David DesRoches, thank you so much for joining us on WION, and we look forward to speaking to you very soon.
It's an honor.